Thank you, Madam Chair. There's definitely some good stuff in this well-intentioned legislation that is being proposed, and worthy of further consideration for sure. But some of this stuff that gives me reason for pause, for example, is the under Part J, a depository institution may charge not more than one overdraft coverage fee in any single calendar month, and not more than 6 overdraft coverage fees in any single calendar year per transaction account. Now, you wonder what would happen then if somebody had 12 overdrafts in a year. 6 of them are free. Would they take that maybe as an inference that they don't need to pay it or they shouldn't be responsible for it? And the question that begs for an answer is, who would, even if the fee was exactly matched to the loss and to the administrative costs, who would then pay for the abuse, the 6 abuses that were not allowed to be charged back to this customer? And I'm afraid the answer is to 99% of the customers who do not abuse the privilege of having a checking account. You know, stealing is still stealing. I mean, I hope Congress is not trying to change that fundamental right. When you tell somebody, you give me this and I'll pay you for it, and if you don't do it, that's called theft. If it happens at McDonald's or Burger King or anywhere else, you make an obligation. There's a moral obligation, I think we all believe, to hold up your end of the bargain. And if I get you to loan me money and say that I'm going to pay you back, and I don't in fact do it, if I give you a bad check, that's stealing. And there's been penalties for that, I'm sure, in every state, and severe penalties where the amounts are severe. So, you know, I hope that Congress is not trying to and cannot minimize the necessity of having a responsibility to pay your debts. And I hope that we're not trying to, by lowering the consequences in the interest of consumer protection, we're not trying to lower the consequences of bad behavior, which is what caused us to be in the major economic recession that we're in now. You know, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, and I wonder if some components here are not a cure in search of a disease. It's laudatory that Mr. Blaine has 80% of his customers signed up for overdraft protection. That leads me to suspect that most consumers enjoy knowing that if they should inadvertently, hopefully, make a mistake and can't cover their last check, that there will be an opportunity for the institution to step up. I'd be interested in knowing how often you have to exercise that overdraft protection.
Congressman, I agree with you. The essence of our program is it is an opt-in, and as you say, if you give the consumer a choice, they will make the right decision. So, but giving them the choice is very, very important. We have about 9,000 potential overdrafts every day. So it's a very, very large number, and if you would multiply that by $35, then you understand what's at risk in terms of income to institutions and why there's such a strong discussion. One other point, in terms of the number of once per month or 6 per year, as I understand this legislation, you're trying to strike a balance between the number and the proportional fee, and the truth is somewhere in between, but you have to keep the two together when you do the legislation to make it more reasonable.
Congressman, if I could add, under the legislation, there's no requirement that institutions continue to cover any transactions after the 6 limit. So in response to your question about whether institutions would be forced to cover transactions without a fee, the legislation would allow institutions then to deny those transactions, which I think is a more effective deterrent and a more effective encouragement for personal responsibility, which you've called for today, than allowing transactions to go forward without a fee. The most effective deterrent is denying the transactions. And at 6, under the current system, there seems to be a misunderstanding that the current system actually covers all payments. In fact, even under the current fee-based overdraft system, people do get denied if they reach their maximum limit on a negative. For example, some banks have a negative $500. And that could just as easily be your mortgage payment or your rent payment or that important thing, and you were driven down there by your small debit card thing. So we're not in a world now where everything gets paid, but just to be clear, the bill certainly does not require institutions to continue to pay for and not charge a fee.
Congressman, we very much support personal responsibility too. We're all fully behind it. One of the innovations we're adding later next year is we all have mobile phones now, cell phones, smartphones, and we will actually text our members early in the morning. You know, we process at night, and we know there's a potential overdraft, and we will contact you if you are a member and say, you need to come see us before 5:30 to give them a second chance, because it is a very busy world, and most folks will do the right thing and come in and avoid those fees. If not, we have no compunction about punishing them severely.
Do you find competitors following your business model?
The gentleman's time has expired, and he's granted an additional 30 seconds for Mr. Blaine to respond.
I think banks and credit unions are good people, and they do want to serve their customers and members well. And as these technologies become available, they'll try to help their customers and members. I hope.
Thank you very much.
Young lady.